Hello, everyone, and today I thought I'd have a little bit more fun. This is my witch's bag. So when I go out to do readings in a coffee shop, at a fair, in a metaphysical store, or if I'm going into someone's home for a hen party, I have to have my witch's bag. Usually the table and chair is supplied, and I make appointments, and it's either through the store owner, and I show up for 1 or 2 days a week when they've scheduled me some people to read, or it's, as I say, for a party that's going on. And I always limit it to 7 or 8 people so that there's enough time to give everyone at least a 15-minute reading. And then I always have a little surprise at the end where I spend an extra 15-20 minutes with the people as a group. And I'll get into that later on, but I thought I wondered if people would be interested in seeing what I take when I go to do readings. So let's open up the witch's bag and I'll show you how I set up my table and what I take with me, what I find essential. So the first thing is the cloth. So I'm going to move the bag out of the way for a second because when I go to set up, I always take a cloth. And usually the tables are fine for about this size. So I'm just going to straighten that. Not perfect, but good enough for now. So first thing that goes down is the cloth. And then we get into the witch's bag. Now I got this secondhand and I used it so much I had to use some black electrical tape to keep the handles functioning. But it's such a good little kit, I couldn't part with it. And it's plastic, so I could wipe it off, or vinyl, I guess you'd say, but that's the witch's bag. Now let's see what's in it. So one of the first things I'm going to do when I set up is take out my candle. And usually I'll put that on the right, out of the way of the cards and out of the way of the people. Then I always bring something fun. So maybe, and I find just casting it works better than trying to make it perfect, I'll put out some pearls. What lady doesn't like a little bit of bling? Mints. You want to keep your breath fresh. And I'll give you a little peek inside there. A mirror so that you can check yourself out before the next client. Okay. Oh, this. Okay. Now this, I like to have a little giveaway for people. So if I have a deck I'm not using, and for instance at a thrift store, I love my thrift stores, I found some Doreen Virtue decks. And what I did was, some of them had little ribbons when I gave them. These ones haven't all been completed with ribbons. But after a reading, I would let them hold these cards, shuffle them, and pick one. And then I let them read from the book what the meaning was of that card. So that comes at the end, but I'll always have something to give away to the people, just to make it a little bit more personal. So I always have that in some sort of a bag, and I'll put that off to the side. And again, you want to try to make it look pretty for the people when they come to the table. So I'll move that in a bit so you can see it. All right, so what goes next? Let's just see. In that pocket, oh, there's another thing there. I usually have some fancy gloves. So let me just get a second here and I'll find which way it goes. Like that. So when I'm reading, it's just some fun, some bling that you can bring to the reading. Okay, so we'll get this one on. And I did have some longer ones, some silk ones, but I found these fun. And it keeps your hands a little bit warm. If you're like me, when you get nervous, your fingers get cold. So this keeps you a little bit warmer. All right. And I don't take these out unless I'm asked for it, but these are little gift certificates that they can purchase in an envelope, and I can address them. And whatever price we agree upon for how long a time, they get to have one of those. So that's the first pocket done. Then I have my deck. This happens to match the cloth, and these would be cleared, and you can clear them in any manner that you like. For me, I like to put them all upright. I don't anymore put them all back in order of the way the deck came. This is my Rider-Waite-Smith deck. This was my dollar store purchase. I got the deck for $1. Mentioned that in another video. And these ones got trimmed down because they got worn so much, but everybody loves these images. It didn't matter what I took out. Everybody gravitated toward wanting a reading with these. And that's what the back looks like. So it looks nice on the table too. So I would probably just put the cards. I'm going to move this again for a second. Got to keep everything in the view of the camera. So they would be going there, or I would place them right in the middle of the table and remove that. Okay, what else is in here? Kleenex, got to have that. A timer. If I'm doing a party, I have to stick to the time limits. So I usually give everyone 15 minutes, and when the timer goes off, I thank them very much for their time. And what I tell them too is it's 15 minutes from the time that I pass the cards to you to shuffle. So if you want to spend some time shuffling, that's up to you. And I do encourage reversals. And it's as many cards as I can read in the 15 minutes. And I usually do a Celtic cross because that covers everything. And sometimes I get through the whole thing, and other times we're only on the central cards of 4 to 6. So that's interesting too. It just depends how it goes. And I try to explain to them that if we don't get all the cards done, don't worry about it. You were only meant to hear what you heard. So I'm going to move this and make this a little bit prettier there. So yes, I would have my timer there. And I would light my candle just to get ready for the people. And this casts a very nice light. And because it's a teacup, it makes it more feminine, pretty. Okay, what else is in here? So we did bring some Kleenex and need glasses. So that's going to go somewhere over to the side. I'm just going to keep that out of the way. That goes there. All right, what else is in here? Nothing more in that pocket. Oh, gotta have a little booklet. Okay, now this booklet has a little pen, and every once in a while, when I get a really fabulous deep reading or a card says something different, I write it in here. Then I put that in a different book when I get home, and I rip the pages out. And that has proved very beneficial. So you got to have a little booklet. And nobody needs to see that on the table. That's just for you in between clients to write some notes down. So that's in the bag. Now, nothing else in the bottom there. When I was in stores, doing metaphysical readings, I always took a card. Now I've blocked my phone number out here, but even if I was walking around a store and doing one card readings for free, then I had this on there. And if they called back when I wasn't there and asked for me, then I could come in and do some readings. So that's in here. Then, excuse me, I always have some coin and some cash because most of the readings are done with cash. People like that. I don't have to leave the room and go get the server machine and do all that stuff. It's just a transaction that's simple. So I always had some 20s and some 5s in here and some change. So that's in there. Now that covers most of the interior. Here, cough candies. Oh my gosh, when you talk, if you do readings after readings, you're going to have to be keeping your throat working properly. So cough candies were important. All right, and then also, if I wasn't giving away the Doreen Virtue cards or whatever I was feeling I wanted to share that day, then I had these little perfume bottles. This one's empty. But when I did a reading, and after the reading, when I summarized it, if there was more swords or one of the suits was more prominent, I had 4 different ones of these that I could go through, whether it was air, earth, fire, water. And as I say, if there was a lot of swords that came up in the reading, then I had pre-mixed essential oils in these little vials, all labeled, and I could go through and find one that said air. And then I would explain to them that they could use this essential oil during the next few weeks after the reading, because obviously with the air sign that was coming up, all the swords, there was a lot of thought going on in that client's head. And the essential oil blend that I brought to them would allow them to work on those thoughts and find clarity and peace of mind. So it depended, as I say, what element came up the most. So I always had half a dozen or more of these pre-mixed oils in here. And then this would go away under the table or somewhere. And what I would do is before the next client came in, as I said, make sure all the cards are upright. I would be bringing my candle, and by going anti-clockwise over the candle, I would be erasing the previous person's energies, and then clockwise to bring in positive love, positive light. And a good clip makes those cards clear and ready for the next person. And I put that there. I usually like to put the cards out in a fan. It's not showing well against this tablecloth for sure. So you have to think about that. Or you could go this way. Whatever you want. I found this hid a lot of dirt. People come to the table sometimes with their coffee. Some people were finishing their lunch. If I was in a coffee shop, could I sit down and you could do a reading for me while I eat my lunch? Sure, because the cloth was very forgiving. And the way I laid the cards out, as I said, was the Celtic cross. And I don't turn all the cards over at once, but I will so you get a feeling of how it looks on the cloth when a client comes. So that is my central cross. And for the camera, we'll better move that up a little bit, like that. And to get the rest in, gotta move that to the side. And you'll know after you've done a reading or two how much room you need and how much bling you need. So then that completes that. And I have my other part of the Celtic cross here. Now, because some of the tables are a little bit smaller, when you go to a restaurant or a metaphysical store and you can only work in a tiny little back room, sometimes I bring everything together like this so that it fits neater on the table. And this proved quite beneficial because I could read those cards together. So normally I would bring this down, I'd start talking about the first two cards. I try to read them together with the client. And I let them talk, because if we have a conversation, they're going to remember the reading much better, much clearer. And then I would go on to the root of the matter, what they're probably aware of, what they're working on releasing, how things might go, how they think it might go in the next 3 to 6 months. I usually tell people the center here is your 3 months, but everybody moves at their own speed, especially after a reading, and they need to work on some things. This brings it into the next 6 months for sure. So if this is 3 minimum, this brings it into 6. Normally, as I say, that would be down there, and I'll tilt so you can see. And then, as I say, if you're tight for space, you can always move this card up, but these are fabulous to read together. Okay, so if I zoom in, you can get a clearer picture of how the cards would be laid out. So that lets you see what I take, and I'll bring the bag back up again. As far as when I go out, everything that I need to do a reading for a client. So you can choose your own candles. And if you can't use a candle, you can use something battery operated. Create a little bit of bling and have your timer. But it doesn't have to be where they can see it. Keep it out of the way and be quick at clicking it off so you don't disturb other patrons in the area. And have something to give away at the end to thank them. They've done a service for you as much as you've done a service for them. It's been wonderful. Usually when I do a reading, I learn an awful lot. And I usually have somewhere on the table a stone for myself to keep me calm, keep me clear, keep my voice flowing. And then also, I will take along to some of the stores and to some of the fairs my charms. And I will be opening up the charms, and I place them in the bowl. And there's a lot of charms in here. They cover everything. And so when I'm in a store and I'm walking around and introducing myself, I walk up to people and say, would you like to pick a charm for free? And they root around and they pick one, and then I'll spend a minute to 5 minutes, whatever their patience level is, and I'll talk to them about whatever charm comes up. Are there feelings of need for protection, or just the symbol of the star? Are there feelings of being important right now in a situation? Something they really need to focus on? Do they have faith in themselves? Do they feel like they're being directed, if you think of the star card in the tarot deck? It could be anything. And sometimes if two are attached, I get them to drop them in my hand and I read them the way they fall. So this is something that's really fun. And this is what I bring around at the end of like a party where ladies have gathered, and there's 7 or 8 and each have had their reading already. Then I group them together in the room, and they can listen to each other's little charm reading. And if they're not understanding the meaning, then someone else will pipe up from the group and say, "Oh my gosh, I know what that means. Remember this, this, and this." And they go, "Oh yeah." And then some of them, they're just like, "How do you know that?" Well, it's not me, it's the charms and it's your energy that you brought to the event. And there's little initials in here, there's all kinds of stuff. But I find that this is nice at the end. So if I haven't given away a card, or if I haven't given away a little essential oil, this is nice at the end as a little treat, and everybody gets to share in the conversation. So I'm going to leave that there for today, and hope that that was fun for you, because I haven't had this bag open for a little bit. Have a wonderful day. This is Lori from Craggy Brook Witchery, hoping you stop by again.